Ladies and gents, you are very welcome back to the Abs Lift Pass. I'm joined here today by founder of the Abs Powerlifting series as we count down the days to Clash of Titans 3, God of Gods, Jay Farrant.
God of Gods is right.
So, it's been a bit of a road to get to this one. Probably the strongest roster you've ever assembled for a powerlifting meet. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's potentially the strongest roster that's ever been assembled for a powerlifting competition. Naturally, the face of it has changed over time, and I know there's been a lot of stress, whether it's injuries, visas, other difficulties for many of the athletes to get here, but it just seems like you've this never-ending list of these incredibly strong people that are able to rise to the occasion. So how are you feeling as we're now, a week and a half out?
Really good, really confident. As you said, the depth in this roster is unmatched. I've never seen the amount of big hitters. Obviously, Nick got his visa approved today, so he's catching his flight tomorrow. Colton's still in the mix. So with or without Colton, it's still arguably the strongest ever roster to grace a powerlifting platform in terms of total numbers. I'd say there's, you're looking at like 12 to 13 1,000 kilo plus totals. Like, when have you ever seen that? I think Big Dog's probably got like 7. So I don't think there's any issues with it being a show and, losing its kind of magic. This is gonna blow anything out the water.
I think it only gets bigger each year. Last year, I think there's these pivotal moments in the countdown days. So, and I think last year it was when Dan Bell was revealed to be competing, and
yeah.
Even though Dan didn't quite make it onto the podium, he was still such a presence, and I think it added another layer of prestige to the event. This time around, I think that's been done again. Obviously, there was a little bit of a concern whether or not Colton could join us, the limit breaker. He did have another Clash of Titans meet recently enough.
Yeah.
But
Wish version.
Yeah, the Timu version.
Yeah.
He got on extremely well there, and I think there was a bit of talk, and I know this is something we've discussed before. It's very different having your best day when you're in a head-to-head, and the gap is, 20 kilos rather than 200. And I think that was what he faced in his most recent competition, where he has been coming in with all this steam behind him. And he went and put on a pretty clinical day, but again, there was no one else there that could touch him, whereas it might be a different story if we can get him here for Clash of Titans 3.
Yeah, I think Colton would tell you this himself. So come into a different country, regardless, is one thing. Come into Abs, everyone knows the standards, the pace, and the head-to-head is like just different. I don't think there's anywhere in the world where it's this fast, this intense, and you've got that depth. One missed lift and like pressure's on, you're going to be sweating more. Versus doing it in like the gym you train at with your own equipment, your own kind of timings. So what he's done is proved that he can move the weight, which I don't think anyone doubted he could do it. But can he do it on a bigger stage against people who can beat him on his day, on their day, if he makes a mistake? Whether we find that out on April 19th, I don't know, but he is penciled in for August and the Rumble. So we will no doubt see Colton on an Abs platform this year. But look, we just got to focus on who is coming. You got some, Zach Myers, Nicholas Dupree, Justin Zottel, Ken Cooper, John Hack. Like
that's a big one for me. I think seeing John Hack's name on the roster I think that turns a few heads.
Yeah.
I know he's been pestered about doing an Abs series for years, and he's finally bitten the bullet and he's signed up. Arguably like one of the modern day greatest. He's very often compared to like some legendary lifters like Ed Cohen in the modern age. How do you think John Hack will get on? If I'm not wrong, this is his first international outside of America, right?
Yeah, so this is John's first time he's travelled. I was actually there when he won the IPF Worlds against Brett Gibbs. That was Ireland's first ever international event in Killeen, Texas. And usually I'd be like, you got to travel, it's different. But that Worlds, that head-to-head with Brett, their crowd was jammed. The intensity that's probably the best IPF event I've ever been to. John was coming in as like the underdog. He was a little bit cocky, but no, everyone's like, can he take Brett? Brett was the big shit. And he steamrolled him. He absolutely beat, he was so clinical. He just demoralized him after squats. So, that's why he's one of the greats. He's gone and won all these pro comps all around America. He's won an IPF Worlds, and I don't actually think he will be phased by any of the, bells and whistles of abs. He is traveling a little bit. That might take something, but also he's not cutting. So I think he'll do fine, and I think he'll put on a really good show. And obviously he's not in wraps, but I do think he could hit an all-time PB total and sneak onto the podium. And what a way to send off HQ having John Hack.
Some of the other big news with that, but just with that on John Hack, I think that is it. You spoke earlier on a little bit about the head-to-heads. We do think that's going to be something that Colton will have to contend with whenever we get him over. But like that, I think maybe it's that, seeing Brett Gibbs versus John Hack, IPF Worlds. Was that like a little bit of the planting of the seed for you to be like, head-to-heads are where powerlifting needs to go?
That's exactly where, like, I was just a young coach then. And I watched Ray Williams when he was on the rise there. But he was on his own. I think he had like battles with Jezza, but I remember going down specifically to watch that, and it was just amazing. You could feel the tension through the crowd, because it was an American in America, and the whole crowd was just like buzzing. I was like, that's powerlifting, not this fucking I'll just go to a meet on my own. And so the way I see it, that's powerlifting, head to head, anyone can win, back against the wall, who can like not bottle it. And then you've got exhibition lifting, where you do a local meet, or you do a meet where there's like no competition, and you're basically just lifting for PBs and to showcase your strength. So I'm not dismissing either one. It's just they're very two different things. Anyone who's been in competitive head-to-head sport knows it's different. I always say it's like Usain Bolt breaking the world record at like a small Commonwealth or local thing, versus going to the Olympics, having to be there for one day and make sure you're on point, versus like, doing a load of local qualifiers and then eventually breaking the world record. Just different things.
I don't know if they can hear the helicopters. They finally found Jay Farrant. So
I said there was no race.
You alluded to it a moment ago, but this will be our final competition here in Abs HQ. It's been our home for just shy of 5 years now. Previously we had the other gym, and it was a bit of a level up to come here. I think we have made the most of the space. I would say there's oftentimes said, if walls could speak. I think here it's if walls could scream. They have very many stories to tell. And I know recently enough we held the last Abs Pro at the Red Cow venue. And while it was outstanding, and I don't think anyone can disagree with the quality of the competition presented, the way it was run, the efficiency of the team getting that equipment in and out as well. But many of the veteran Abs Pro lifters, Luke Tolman, Jake Brennan, Dave Richardson, they all said it was great, but it's not HQ. No. So we've come full circle now, where our first event here was Abs Series 4, and our final one here will be Abs Series 21. So the majority of the history has taken place here. There was some spasticated strongman training in the corner to kind of ruin the ambience. But in any case, we look behind us and we see some of the names that have competed here. Nicholas Dupree's, Dave Richardson, Stella Higgins, Dan Bell, Brianni. We have Zach Myers, who will get his chance to compete here before we get to close the door on this chapter of Abs Series. But that is an important distinction, I think, that needs to be made. This is the closing of a chapter, but potentially the making of what the series is going to be. So you founded all this. What does it mean to you to see us close the doors on this place?
It's mixed emotions. So you're right. There's no venue like this. I've said it many times. This is like Anfield of powerlifting. Fucking retard. It's probably doing like 50 kilo as well. No, so like there is no venue like it. It'll never be a venue like it. The history, how it all came about, you know, we came, for those of you not in Ireland, we came out of a very strict lockdown. We ran this gym through lockdown when we weren't supposed to. Like on a life support machine, we just kept it going after we realized it was a load of bullshit. And the series really grew here. We've had so many legendary moments. You know, Big Boris, that performance I think will go down as one of the best. Fernando Arias coming over from America, all the Dave Richardson moments, Denise
Herber,
you know, when she won the pro, hugging Nico on the platform. It's just gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Jake Brennan, the first man and only man to total 1,000. It's just endless, and you know, you've been part of it from day one. It is and it will be very sad and emotional to see this venue go. But I've said it to a few people, this at the same time, I feel it's also held the AB series back. And all it does now is like open up a bigger platform. Things are going to have to be more streamlined. There's you know, so much planning in the background. I think it's going to be a positive change. We might not ever replicate this venue and atmosphere. But look, you should have fucking lifted while you had the chance. All you fucking sandbags who were doing shit local opens and should have fucking lifted it. And what a way to go out, you know, John Hack, Dan Bell, all these big guys coming over.
Well, I think it's especially Clash of Titans very quickly became like the quintessential event to tune in for. We've had our biggest live stream numbers. Even I think back to Clash of Titans 2, April last year, I remember sitting up in the commentary booth and looking down at the audience. I might have a video somewhere, I'll probably post it on Instagram, and you couldn't turn sideways in here.
No.
Everyone was right on top of the stage. And I think we knew then, we're like, we have very much outgrown this venue, but we knew that, and we're like, oh, we'll go somewhere bigger. And while the Abs Pro last year in the Red Cow was amazing, I just think there's something just magic about a venue that holds so much history. There's been so many like amazing celebrations and like, you know, heartbreak moments for people here when it comes down to that final pull. We've seen it time and time and time again. It is a historic location, and I know we talked a bit about it during the week where the old school powerlifting club like Westside, you know, that old gritty, dirty little shitbox, but people have made some amazing progress there. I think that style of gym is just becoming a thing of the past, and I think you know, Abs powerlifting as it currently existed has held on for as long as it could being that. But I think in essence we're the only like full powerlifting club that there is in Ireland.
Absolutely.
Barring maybe the lads down in Cork, you know what I mean? But even at that, just ones that carries this degree of like prestige and renown, that's held so many classic events, whether we're talking about the series or other competitions we've hosted for other federations. Many people have had their greatest powerlifting moments here on this very platform we're sitting on. And I do agree, it is sad, and I think there will be like you know, there'll be those moments of reminiscing, but sometimes I think, and it's a big game, like, but it's one of those things, maybe something was special because it wasn't around forever. Maybe that's what's good about it, you know, because it was a limited time thing. We only got to exist here for a very short period of time, and we'll still carry on. The club will, I would imagine, go from strength to strength with the move. The series will find its new identity in several other venues. I think it's going to make us level up and evolve like we always have. But I think for anyone who did get the lift here and be a part of this will always be a special place in their powerlifting journey.
100%, and it'll just grow a legacy and an aura. Remember, Abs, you know, and we'll always have the footage. And again, like I said, this actually frees up so much resources and time to build the series into the next chapter. We've already got venues booked for August. We've got the new one booked for November. And basically what we try to do with the USAPL, we can do it with the AB series because we don't have the bullshit bureaucracy.
You don't have to deal with them.
A federation, which is
those
always
medals are still in the mail.
Fuck me. But, you know, and it just makes it go, we've offers from Portugal, Germany, fucking all over Europe, Hungary. We offers everywhere to run events.
Espanol.
Spain, yeah, we have an abs powerlifting series training center opening up in Spain, in Madrid. It's early days, but that's happening. So, there's so much going on, and although this place is like the Mecca, I think shit changes, and that's one thing abs has always done. It's always stayed original and got ahead of the curve. So I'm actually, as much as I'm sad, I'm actually really excited with the team to look at the next 5-10 years, what we're going to do. It's going to be great.
The final thing I would personally say, and it being here from when this specific facility opened, was I think it got to a point where we were pumping life support into this place to keep it for what it meant to all of us, even though we probably got to a point over a year ago when we could have probably evolved out of here, but it does hold a massive degree of sentimental value. But I think it's just come to that point through happenstance and offers that were made to you several times last year that this is the next best step forward. So for anyone that doesn't know, keep yourself tuned in to the abs powerlifting page and the powerlifting series page for all the developments on what's going to be happening with the future of the series and the abs powerlifting club. But like I've said many times on my own Instagram story, and I'm chatting to people, this means you're going to have more abs to deal with, not less. So just
we're cockroaches.
Yes,
you can't get rid of us
as much as you might like to.
Yeah.
But this actually ties into something. If we spin back around to the Clash of Titans 3 roster, and someone who's become almost like an honorary member of abs powerlifting, a member of the family, and this is like his home away from home, Dave Richardson, Sir Dave, who unfortunately had a catastrophic injury not that long ago in his training for this event. Dave is, I think, somebody who went from being like a relatively well respected but massively unknown lifter from the UK to becoming one of what probably the top 10 lifters, one of the top 5 deadlifters in the world.
Yeah.
All through his presence and his performances here on the abs series platform. So it does, I suppose the biggest shame for me, and the thing that breaks my heart the most, is that Dave won't get to lift at the final one here, because this place means a lot to him.
Yeah, this is his house, man. As you said, he's an honorary member. And as much as we've done things with Dave's rise and just the way he's conducted himself, he's brought the series up with him. So it is sad. I think Dave is coming over. I hope he is. I'd love to have him over for the last one. And he'll be back in August. I chatted to him last night. Everything's going well. He's coming back for abs pro.
Yeah, I've seen him.
And again, he's another cockroach. Ain't getting rid of him anytime soon. But yeah, what an ambassador for powerlifting, for the abs series. And he's just a true example of what just fucking hard work, consistency, tip up on the day style mentality can do. He's the most successful European powerlifter in history, but that's not even questionable. He's beaten, he's won the 2 biggest events outside of Sheffield, which is essentially an exhibition anyway, because you're not competing against people. But definitely in untested, he's like arguably the greatest European powerlifter and respected around the world. So yeah, it's shit, but this is sport. You have to move on, and Dave's character, he won't just be back, he's going to come back. This could be a blessing. Now he's got 6 months to train in chicken legs. And, he can't do any rows, so his back's going to get weaker. So his legs, he's still going to be squatting and stuff. So I expect, way north of 1,100 kilos by the time he comes back.
Amazing. So this technically could be the making of him, although I'd imagine he's probably going to take his bench press training a little bit easier for the time being.
Yeah, single hand tricep extensions. But
let me ask you a question, and this is kind of putting you on the spot, right? So we kind of come to the close of a chapter now at Ab Series 21 and what has been the history of the Ab Series since essentially Ab Series 4 to now. And these things tend to go in like ages. We had the age of Jake versus Eamon, Jake versus Jesse. Then it kind of started to evolve into the Luke Tolman era. Then it essentially became the Dave Richardson era, which then brought in the likes of Fernando Arias, Nicholas Dupreez, and a whole host of other excellent athletes. If you had to make your own Mount Rushmore of the AB series, who are the 4 people?
Okay, Dave. Okay, just male or all?
We'll do it. I'd say there's probably a male and a female one.
Okay, so Dave. Oh, fuck, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
Damn, there's 4 people.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna upset some people here. Okay, so the first one's it's Dave, Jesse, Luke, Jake, Fernando, Nick, and Boris. There's 7 there, so now you have to bring them down to 4. So, it's very, very hard. Like, Dave is definitely there because he's been around the longest. I would have to go. I have to put Jake there.
Yeah.
Because he had the Jake, and he stayed around a little bit longer.
Put up the first 1,000 kilo total.
Put up the first 1,000. I have to put Jesse there.
Yeah.
I have to, because although he didn't stay around long enough, he was the original shit talker.
Yep.
The original rivalry was Jesse versus Jake. And then he nearly won the Abs Pro out of nowhere. And I think he definitely elevated it in Ireland. And that leaves me 1 spot. And man, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. It's either Nick, Fernando, or Luke.
For me personally, it's Luke Tolman.
Yeah, I would purely because he's competed more and won the Abs Pro.
He's been here since 2021.
Yeah, and again, Luke versus Jesse.
Yeah.
Rivalry. I think Nick and Fernando, this is their year to kind of.
I think they are the stars that are going to carry it further, especially after like watching Nick's weird adventures in Asia where he was being treated like a god. Very entertaining in a very inadvertent way. I do think those guys though are the 2, they might be the head-to-head that carries it later on,
Yeah.
Especially now that they've got a little bit of leeway with Dave being on the shelf.
Yeah.
But it is very, very tough, and I think it's like that. It's as time goes on and things evolve, the faces change. But I think they're the monolithic figures. Jake and Jesse,
I agree.
Luke and Dave.
They've had more skin in the game, and then I think Nick and Fernando, it's like their era now. But yeah, like I think back to Glass 11, and like how it started, and they brought it into the next chapter, and yeah, definitely.
I'm very confident if Jesse Moore were to decide to fully commit to a powerlifting comeback, he'd piss a few people off. So maybe get on the phone to him again.
Yeah. Well, I do speak to Jesse quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jesse. Yeah. So that's what we get for doing a podcast in a gym. But I think Jesse Moore and someone I'm a big fan of. I'd hate to think we've seen him for the last time on a series platform.
I think he'll be back.
I'd love, but the thing is, I want to see him back the way he was at that Abs Pro that he pulled for the win.
Yeah.
Because so many people had him written off, and I think that to me is what makes him like part of that Mount Rushmore of Abs series, because he'd come up here, he'd be pissing everybody off, and he'd talk an absolute ream of shite, and everyone would be he's going to drop his deadlifts, he's grip his shit, he's not going to hit that, and the guy came out all guns blazing and put on a clinic. He was 1 pull away from the win. On the female side, I think Denise Herber has to be there.
Oh, obviously, yeah. Denise.
Laura Volgasson.
Laura. Denise, Laura. You have to put Brianni there. I know she only done 1 meet.
But it was a dominant performance.
She destroyed
and I think
everyone.
It got a lot. The one thing I'll say about that performance from Brianni, from 2 sides, I think it brought some eyes in the US onto the Abs series, which I don't know they were there, but I knew they knew about it, but now they were taking it a bit more seriously. And I think it's like, I know we've got a big future in the States, so I think that's partly responsible, but I do also think as well, Brianni and Joe were talking about moving on to bodybuilding, and I know being over here with us at the series, they were like, nah,
Fuck that.
powerlifting is where it's at.
Yeah, no, Brie, Denise, Laura Vogelsang, and the fourth one for me would be probably Stella.
Stella Higgins, yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm a big fan of Stella.
I think she's just, you know, 2 back-to-back podiums.
Yeah. I think Stella is similar to the other guys that she's only really getting started here. And I think she'll win an Abs Pro eventually.
Yeah, I think, well, the fact she's gotten 2 podiums.
Yeah.
Like, she's only ever lost to Denise and Brianni.
Yeah.
Come on.
World class. Like. The honorary mentions for me are going to be Lena and Heather Connor.
Yeah. Lena and Heather. Yeah.
Heather Connor just, I think, would have been on there for me over Stella had she gotten over to us a couple more times. You know what I mean? And then, like, Lena, obviously the inaugural female champion, so R.I.P. You know what I'm saying? Like, so again, in a day and age when, like, I think there wasn't as much of it, like, female powerlifting wasn't as pedestalized as it is now. I think just to have somebody of that caliber was outstanding. So they're like the honorary mentions for me. That one's a little easier just because, you know, with where female powerlifting was when we started, to be honest, where the series has taken a lot of the pro-am and pro lifters too. I think it's really helped to elevate the untested side. And it doesn't have to mean that they're necessarily using anything, but just to give people that platform that isn't strictly female IPF lifting.
IPF, I'm not saying anything.
But
it doesn't showcase it as much as it could. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, well, even if we just talk about wraps and a deadlift bar, just to give people that extra.
Yeah, it's fucking fun.
Yeah, just see
watching girls do bigger weights is fun.
Yeah, it's class. I'm actually very interested to see what happens when we get Jen Smith back.
Yeah, I'd love to see Jen. I think she's just kind of doing her own thing right now.
Just pause her bench a bit.
I do slide into her DMs now and again with the old eyes when she's doing some weights, doing some barbell stuff. But
incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Incredibly strong athlete. Don't think we got to see her at her best when obviously she didn't have a great day at the Abs Pro last year. But definitely somebody who I think could go. Good battle potentially between her and Stella Higgins, I think, in years to come. But we'll just have to wait and see. But like, I think that's what this all rounds out to. We've managed to showcase, at this stage now, probably hundreds of world-class athletes. If you look even at the average, like, total and dot score that would have won a meet back in 2018, 2019, they're not even on the podium. They probably don't even qualify for the standard of competition we're presenting these days.
But like, look, Barry Piggott's initial Abs Pro victory wouldn't get him an invite. Probably wouldn't get him an invite now. Again, it's all about the era. Like, he came in, did what he needed to do, had a textbook performance. But it just shows how, you know, 600 dots or Wilks doesn't guarantee you a podium now at Abs Pro. That's insane. Like, you know, 1,000 kilo might not even get you in the top 10 at the Clash.
Yeah.
Name me one. Everyone talks about Sheffield, but it's a strength sport. It's the strongest competition in the world. And name me one roster where 10th position, 1,000 kilo might not even get you 10th.
Yeah.
Like, it's not there. So, and it's only getting stronger. And it's done to an unquestionable standard, which is anything close to it is like, there's usually like, yeah, that was shit, you know? Or it was a kabuki deadlift bar, or you had like 7 hours to fucking rest between attempts. It's like, shut the fuck up. Do you know what I mean? So, I think we're on a good trajectory, and you're fucking crazy if you don't watch this event.
So, final 2 questions I have for you before we wrap this exclusive interview for the Abs Lift Pass. We already know that there's a massive squat rack being rattled down the gym. We already know that there is massive change coming for both the club and the competitions. We know.
Yeah, lads, can you keep it down a minute? Can you just keep it down for 2 minutes? You're like fucking rats. Not you, but fucking rattling around. Fuck me.
So
don't take Tran.
We already know that the club and the competitions are going to be moving, changing, evolving. Is there any specifics you can reveal to the audience? You alluded earlier on to Spain, you alluded to Portugal, you alluded to the States, Germany, so many other new places we're going to be going in the coming year and into 2026, even into 2027. Is there any other massive announcements or any other sneak peeks you can give the audience?
Yeah, so for those salty people, Abs is not shutting down or closing down or on its deathbed. Quite the opposite. Along long-term friend of mine, Simon Murphy, the owner of Westside Gyms, known in Blanche and Finglas. Best commercial gyms in Dublin, hands down. We have a new business model called The Cage, and the Abs Cage will be a dedicated space within these gyms for powerlifting. So we're going to obviously keep our identity, keep our coaching platform, all the high standards that we set over the last 12 years. We'll be moving that into a commercial space. For example, in the Finglas location, it's a massive space, five deadlift platforms, 5 combo racks, be dedicated training times, all that stuff. Loads of coaching programs, loads of coaching sessions. So that's going to be the Finglas location. And then in Blanche, there'll be another cage with 3 ER racks, combo racks, 2 deadlift platforms, all the calibrated kit. And same thing, we're going to, bring the Abs powerlifting structure to these cages. And then possibly, can't say too much, but there will probably be a 3rd location in Dublin as well, opening up over the next 6 to 12 months. So that changes our business model. It makes us able to go streamline, get to more people, get more people into the sport, reduce our running costs, then we can put that money back into coach development, lifters development, ab series, all the good stuff. So that's kind of our model for Dublin. Really, we were looking at this 6 months ago, kind of got our hand forced a little bit with a non-illegal rave that we didn't throw. So it is what it is. It was a good rave. And the other thing then, we're looking at a performance institute or something along those lines in Spain, in Madrid, that's opening up. Lots of calibrated kit going there. I can't say too much on that yet. And then the other thing is there will be an abs hub or abs gym opening up in Wexford. Again, can't say too much there, but that's where the monoliths will be going. Again, more calibrated equipment, all that stuff. So yeah, although one door closes, we're opening 5 more doors. And the mission stays the same, offer high quality coaching. And the abs is an idea. It's or cult, as some people call it. It's a bit of a cult. It's a bit of a cult, but you're not tied to a building. This isn't our first rodeo. Yeah. We literally got locked out of our last building in COVID, and we all trained in gardens and bought Invicta racks and lent equipment, and that is abs. It's a ant colony. We just adapt and overcome. We'll go somewhere else. So exciting future. This is the most excited I've been since I kind of kicked off the ab series. But this time I've got an amazing coaching team behind me. I've got loads of good people who are part of this next step, and it's just going to benefit not just powerlifting in Dublin, but in Ireland, Europe, and then there's a whole new podcast about what we're bringing to America next year, which will be five events, hopefully in the North American series.
Excellent. I think that's the best place to leave it. Folks, thank you very much for joining us in this exclusive Abs Lift Pass interview with Jay Farrant, founder of the Abs Powerlifting series. Stay tuned for a lot more in strength sports, powerlifting, strongman, all here on the Abs Lift Pass, and over on Instagram if you haven't yet, for that exclusive behind the scenes look, you can subscribe to the Powerlifting series page. Thank you very much.